Hey y'all, what's up? Welcome to day 7 of 40 days through the Bible. Today we're talking about the slavery in Egypt. So let's go ahead and get into it. We're going to be reading from Exodus 1. Y'all, we in Exodus. We moving through the books. We in Exodus, okay? So let's talk a little bit about slavery in Egypt. So over time, Israel became enslaved in Egypt and longed for freedom, okay? Exodus 1:13 says this: so they ruthlessly made the people of Israel work as slaves. So remember, Israel was promised, they were supposed to be going to the promised land, but of course they made some stops in between, and this is one of those stops where they were kind of just working towards getting that inheritance and that covenant that God had with Abraham, kind of fulfilling it. So for 400 years had passed. Back up. 400 years had passed since Joseph moved his family to Egypt. His small family increased in number until they grew to be too numerous to count. So remember, that was part of the covenant that God that he had with Abraham, that he told Abraham, hey, you're going to have as many people in your lineage, your down lineage, as the stars in the sky. So in 1:7 it says, and Numbers 1:44 through 46 says these numbers fulfill God's word in Genesis 17:1 through 8, right? 17:1 through 8 lists the parts of the covenant God made with Abraham. In these verses, which verse does the increase in Joseph's family fulfill? How does Exodus 1:6 through 7 speak in what we are learning here? So I'm going to go ahead and answer this. We don't need to pause because we talked about this, right? In Exodus, the promise is that he's fulfilling your generations. The generations after you are going to be this many. Your descendants are going to be so many people, right? And so there are four things that I have listed here that are the parts of the covenant that God made with Abraham. The first part is, you shall be the father of many nations. The second part is, I will make you exceedingly fruitful. The third is, kings shall come from you. And the fourth is, I give you and your descendants the land in which you are a stranger, all the land of Canaan. So that's what's coming up with the promised land, right? This increase reveals the absolute faithfulness of our God to honor his word. What's hard to comprehend is that the fulfillment of this promise led to the enslavement of God's people in Egypt. So that's the part that's kind of like, okay, you said they were going to be given this land, but like, why do they have to be enslaved and all this other stuff? So that's what we're starting to learn about now. But God knew that what the Israelites didn't. If they had remained where they had settled before going to Egypt, they would have intermarried and aligned themselves religiously and politically with the unbelieving and idolatrous people of that land, including the Canaanites, Moabites, and Hittites. The Bible called these people pagans. In biblical times, a pagan referred to either those who worship many gods or to self-indulgent people who rejected Jehovah as the one true God. God knew if left where they were, his holy set-apart people would have absorbed into the pagan culture, forgetting who and whose they were. So that's why he had to move them, because he knew that they were in an atmosphere that was not conducive to his will. No matter what happened in Egypt, God's good and perfect plan would stand. God would eventually bring his people into Canaan, the land God promised Abraham. Not even the wickedness and cruelty the Egyptians inflicted upon the Israelites could thwart the plan God set forth before time began. It could not nullify the promises made to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And I'm going to just lower this because it looks a little cray-cray. Okay. It's hard to understand how enslavement, this depth of cruelty and suffering, could be allowed by God to accomplish his plan for his people, yet it was. Have you ever asked, why has God allowed this? God, how could this be your plan? I know I have. If we want to walk closely with God, we must keep our minds fixed on one significant character trait of our God, his sovereignty. So I feel like slavery is like a really extreme example, but that is what's happening in this Bible. But slavery seems like a really extreme example, but there are a lot of occurrences in life right now where we say, well, God, why would God do that? A lot of people will ask, like, when someone in their family passes away, or if they lose someone they love, God, why would you do that? Or if they experience a really bad heartbreak or some type of atrocity in life, they always ask, why would you do that? Why do you have to do that in order to fulfill your purpose? And so this gives us a little bit of insight into God's sovereignty and why those things, they may happen. And you may not ever have the full answers, but I can say this much, like, When really big life events like that happen and really big shifts happen in your life, it causes you to pivot. And sometimes that pivot is what needed to happen. And so it happens a lot when people pass away, like major car accidents, major relationship losses, or if you lose all your friends, or just all those different kinds of things happen. And I'm not saying that you let that, oh man, this is a hard subject, because when we're in it, it's hard to feel like it's all happening for a reason. That's what makes it a hard subject, And I can kind of say from an outside perspective, because I've experienced some things, but now I'm on the other side of them. And so it's easier for me to look back and say, okay, yeah, this is, this happened for a reason, or this happened because I needed to pivot in this way. But I just encourage you to kind of think about those things that you feel like have happened, that you question, like, God, why would you do this? I would just encourage you to look at those things and look at what pivot and what positive changes have happened in your life, and what has changed about you as a person that has affected those around you in your life in a more positive light, because those things have happened. So question 2 for today says, in reference to God, sovereign means he has all power and authority in this world. Look up these verses and share what you learned. Psalm 24, 1-2, 47:7, then Matthew 28:18, John 1:3. John Piper summarizes God's sovereignty like this: God's sovereignty is his right and power to do all that he decides to do. I'm going to go ahead and read, because we don't really need to pause. You can pause if you want to read the verses. God is the King of all earth. Sing praises with understanding. All authority has been given to Jesus.